That's not
All
a,
right, we'll call this special meeting of Independent School District 24 School Board to order. We have an acting clerk this evening, Ms. Newmaster. Ms. Newmaster, will call the roll. Quite all right, talking is allowed. Roll call. Okay, Chapman?
here.
Kimball?
Here. Here.
Newberg? Here. Wilson?
Here.
He is absent. Thank you, Ms. Newmaster. We only have one item on the agenda for our special meeting tonight, and that's the certification of 2017 payable, 2018 proposed property tax levy. Mr. Walls? Mr. Lazorak?
Good evening. Annually, the school board is required to certify to the auditors of each county in the school district. The school district serves the preliminary 2017 payable 2018 property tax levy. The Minnesota Department of Education Finance Department uses data specific to our school district to calculate these numbers, leading us to the school district portion of homeowners' property taxes for 2018. In your materials this evening is a summary of that document. It's a 40-page document that we have reduced to a couple pages for you. Tonight's administration is recommending that the school board certify the maximum levy allowable provided by state law. That allows for changes between now and the final certification, the official certification in December. So tonight's just the preliminary tax levy certification, and then that will become finalized in December. So we ask that we just certify the maximum amount, and then adjustments will be made up or down, and then we'll come to you in December with the final amount. And changes are not unusual between now and December. There could be changes from the MDE calculations that will adjust it slightly. There could be some long-term facilities maintenance issues that could come up between now and December that would require an adjustment. But it'll likely be similar to what we're proposing tonight. Our Finance Director, Tom Wazorek, is with us tonight, and Tom will be able to provide detail on the numbers.
Okay, and I will be brief. I am going to highlight several areas that make up most of the levy increase. And if you will look on the second page is the summary of our levy from MDE. And as you can see, it's from 16 payable 17, our levy was $36,068,000 and some change. And for 17 payable 18, the levy is increasing up to $38,587,000. So that's an increase of $2.5 million or 6.98%. So the reasons for that increase are a majority of it is in the referendum. There are basically three components. The levy referendum was based on our enrollment. It's based on an inflationary factor and then adjustments from a prior year. So for this year, the total levy referendum is going up approximately $1 million from last year to this year. And of that amount, about $100,000 was made up of just the Tier 1 change, because there's three levels or three tiers to their levy referendum. The first tier is equalized, so part of it is state aid and part of it is total levy. So that percentage is changing from last year to this year. So our increase in that is $100,000 more on the property taxes compared to state aid. The other change is right now there's a change in pupil units from last year to this year, and that amounts to another $104,000. And then because of we have an inflationary levy referendum, that's accounting for almost $300,000 of the increase. And then there's a $117,000 increase that's due to the change from the levy referendum 2 years ago that was certified. Because of the change in pupil units, now they're catching up for last year's also. So those three things then add up to about $604,000. Now that's just on the voter approved portion. Then there's the non-voter approved portion, which is the $424 per pupil unit, and there we have the same things. The pupil unit's changing, so that's going to increase how much we're levying for that $424. Plus, there's the change of correcting what happened in prior years from the year before. So those two things amount to the $236,000 in the voter part, or the other, or the board-approved part. So that, in a nutshell, is almost that whole $1 million. Then we also then have career and tech in the past years, and as the way I understand it, we're trying to catch up in that career and tech arena, that now we have access to this levy. Before, it was really stagnant at the state level. So that amounts to $160,000. Another big portion of our increase is in long-term facilities maintenance. The formula change is from last year to this year is $88. That's $88 times the pupil units. So that's another $806,000 of change. So as you can see, from that $1 million and then the $800,000 from long-term facilities, career and tech's another $160,000, that really adds up in a hurry to a good portion of our $2.5 million increase. The last thing I would like to highlight is our lease levy is going up $215,000, and that's mainly because of the intermediate 916's lease levy, which is a pass-through to us. So in a nutshell, those few items that I talked about are a majority of our levy increase. And as you can tell from my discussion, that we don't have a whole lot of control over most of them, because if you don't levy, you don't get aids that are attributed to those categories. So, that I would echo Tim's recommendation that we certify the maximum levy, and then we'll recertify in December after the state makes changes based on actual numbers that are submitted.
Thank you, Mr. Wazorek. We do have a recommendation that we approve the maximum for the 2017 payable 2018 proposed property tax levy as set forth by both Mr. Wald, Mr. Wazorek, and in our materials. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Wilson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any questions for either Mr. Wald or Mr. Wazorek? Mr. Wilson.
Yeah, I'd like to go back and just take a look at the inflationary portion of is that in fact basically a little over 1% of the prior year's levy? So in other words, 36 million, and it was a little over 1%, and that's 300,000. We're not trying to anticipate inflation at all, are we? And front-loaded into the levy?
The 2 years that we have here, each year was inflated approximately 1.2 or 2%, a little over 2% each year. I do not know what next year's is going to bring, but that's what has happened for these 2 years. It was 1.202, or no, 1.2 or 2.39 the first year, which had been the last year's, and 2.02 this year.
That answers the second question. It's not anticipatory.
Right.
It's just based on what the inflation was,
Right.
given the prior year's.
Yep.
I mean, and it's not based on the entire levy, it's based on the operating portion.
Okay.
It's not built on the entire 36, it's on the...
It's on the voter-approved property levies.
Mr. Chapman, you had a question, then Mr. Mullen.
Two parts. You'd mentioned that the formula for the long-term facilities had gone up. That's a state formula, I assume.
Correct. That's correct.
Okay. And then in terms of our track record, so to speak, do we have, this seems to me to be about the largest increase I've seen since being on the board, and I might be wrong, almost a 7% increase. Do we have something that tells us what the trend has been the last 5 years or so?
I can get that for you. I do know last year's was smaller, but we didn't have the long-term facilities has. The long-term facilities maintenance revenue is going to be ratcheting up, and it's going up, I'm guessing, and I don't have the exact amount, but it's going up probably about the same amount every year for 3 or 4 years. And that's because they're trying to do catch-up. They didn't want to go one time all the way, but, so, I don't know, I can get the history of what it's been the last 5 years.
It seems like, and other board members correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like in the last, most recent years, we've had only like maybe 2-3% or so. And this is quite a jump.
And not to, and I appreciate the work, I just, and not to really dig in on the weeds, but I'm just wondering for the career and tech ed, is there a reason, and if you already stated this, I apologize, but is there a reason that it's going up substantially the way it is?
I can't answer that, probably Wayne can.
So I don't remember which year it changed, but the formula changed so that essentially it's 35, you can levy 35% of all costs associated with whatever fits into that category. And so the number that is included is 35% of that, and this is the first year that or last year we did too, but we brought all the kinds of expenses that were allowable under that umbrella under that umbrella, and so then we apply the 35% to that larger number and increase the levy. So it was a change in state law to increase funding towards those programs. So
And
that's the effect. The effect of it is it's levy. It isn't state aid. It's a levy. It was a levy increase. So,
As a follow-up, if I may, same thing for the ice arena. I mean, even though that's not, I mean, it's substantial, but I'm wondering, is that just operating costs or?
it's a net operating cost.
Okay.
Yep. So at the end of the year, we take the revenues minus expenses, and that's what's left.
Any other questions for either Dr. Kazmierczak, Mr. Wald, or Mr. Wazorek?
I'm sorry, if I may. So, and you probably explained this, and I apologize, but under Safe Schools, and then right underneath it, the next line down is Safe Schools Intermediate. Is that the 916 one?
Yes.
Okay.
Right, any additional questions, discussion? All right, so we do have a motion and a second. Ms. Clerk, this calls for a roll call vote.
Okay. And I don't need to repeat it, right?
No.
Just the names. Okay. Chapman?
Aye.
Kimball?
Aye.
Mullen?
Aye.
Milberg?
Aye.
Newmaster? Aye. And Wilson?
Aye.
The motion carries. That's the end of our special meeting. We will be reconvening at 5:30 for our work study meeting, but in the meantime, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the special meeting.
Madam Chair, I move to adjourn our special meeting.
And I second that we are adjourned. Thank you. We'll start up again in about 2 minutes.